Google Ads has tons of different data points you can use to evaluate the performance of and optimize on your Google Ads campaigns. You can use the data right in the Campaigns Manager, or you could create a Google Data Studio dashboard, like the one you can start right here, and get the data that you need to optimize your campaigns. But sometimes you need something a little bit different. Maybe the Campaigns Manager doesn't have the view exactly the way that you need it, and a Data Studio dashboard just seems like too much work. Well, the good news is that Google Ads has a dashboards tool right in the platform that can fit right in the middle of those two. So today I want to show you how to find the Google Ads dashboards in the platform and show you how you can start to create some custom reports to get the data that you need. The first thing we need to do is navigate to the dashboards portion of the interface. Depending on what your top navigation looks like, you'll either find this under Tools and Settings under the Reports column, or if your account is like mine, you'll have this separate icon out here for Reports. When you click on that, you'll see that there are the predefined reports, and then dashboards. Obviously for this video, we want to use the dashboards option. If your account is like this one and you haven't created any dashboards, the first thing I'm going to suggest that you do is to open the sample dashboard. That's going to be down here in this gray text. In just a little bit, we'll get into setting up a new dashboard, which you can do either here or here. But for right now, I want to start off with this sample version, and there are a couple reasons for that. So if I click on this, we can now see the starter dashboard that Google Ads will create for any account. All of the different breakdowns will look identical, except it will be representing the data and the performance from the account that it's in. But all the different sections are going to be identical for this starter dashboard. The first reason that I wanted you to open the sample dashboard to start is, quite frankly, just so you can see what a dashboard will look like and get an idea of what it can do. You can see here up at the top, there is a custom scorecard that has 4 different metrics: cost, interactions, interaction rate, and impressions. And then the next section down below is a daily cost by device line chart. Next to that, we have a note, which is basically just a little section of text that Google Ads has put in here to tell you that this is a starter dashboard. Feel free to customize it to your heart's content. And if I scroll down, I'm going to scroll just so we can see the other 3 types of charts on here. We've got a bar chart that is interaction rate and cost by device, a pie chart on the right, which is interactions by device, and then a table down at the bottom that has campaign performance by device. And you can see that each line item is a campaign name, even though they're blurred out, but then it has performance for click-through rate and clicks by the different device groups. So overall, there are a number of different types of data points within this starter dashboard. I think it's really important to see what all you can do within an account. Now, the second thing I'm going to tell you to do is to come up and click Save As. This is going to help you save this starter dashboard so you can always get back to it when you want to. If you do not do this and you create a custom dashboard first, you will not be able to get back to this starter dashboard. That's not to say that this dashboard is going to change your life in any way, or if it's going to be one that you always end up using, but if it's something that you want to be able to see the potential of a dashboard, and this is the only account you have access to, probably makes sense to not delete it. So I usually just leave the name as starter dashboard, click save, and now my report has been saved, and it just refreshed the data because I saved it. To show you the dashboard builder within Google Ads, I'm actually going to just customize this starter dashboard rather than creating a new one from scratch. I'll show you how to do a new one here in just a little bit, but for the purposes of this video, it's more impactful if I start with this dashboard setup and then look to customize and adjust it. So since I'm already on this page, I'm going to come up here and just click Edit. So once I've clicked Edit, you can see that the contents of the report down here have all stayed the same, but the formatting looks different because now we're in the actual editor. From this position, there are a number of things I can do. I can change the name just by clicking this pencil, or I can start to manipulate the components of the dashboard. And there are a couple different ways I'm going to do this. We can either create items from scratch, or we can edit the existing components of the ads that Google has already built for us. But the first thing that I want to do is I want to explain what all this is over here, because this is a little bit confusing to look at. Effectively, this is additional dashboard space that, for whatever reason, Google did not take advantage of. Each time I hovered over one of these squares, you'll notice that there's a plus that pops up, because if I just click on that, I'm able to add any of the 3 components within the starter dashboard. I can add a note, a report, or a scorecard. So based on what those align with, I need to scroll up a little bit because it actually started me a little further down. This down here is considered a note. This table off to the left is a report, and this section up at the top is a scorecard. So any type of component is going to fall into those three categories, and you can add any of those simply by clicking the plus button and selecting the type of component that you want to add and then customizing it. I'll show you how to do that here in just a minute. But before we get too far, I do want to show you that these are customizable, and you can easily just click on any of the components and drag and move them over into a different space. You'll see that it kind of snaps into place, and if you wanted to, you could have this custom scorecard reach all the way across the top and it'll snap into the placements that are here. Obviously this looks a little bit silly because there's no data over here, so it's just kind of an empty space, which is probably why Google didn't take up that space with it in the first place. But there are lots of ways that you can customize the view. If you wanted to, you could also make it a little bit smaller by narrowing down this way. You'll see that it's snapped into a couple of different rows, which unfortunately you can't scroll on, which is a bit of a pain. Or you could extend it to be the full width here, and then make it a little bit more narrow so that it's only the depth of one of the fields. Almost impossible to view, not super useful that way, which again is probably why Google did it the way that it did for the default dashboard. But now you can see if at any point you wanted to move some of these components around, change their spacing, change the alignment, you can easily do that just by dragging and dropping them into a new placement. So that's how the placements within these dashboards work. Now let's talk about each of the types of components. Let's start with the easiest one, and that's going to be these notes here. If I wanted to, I could easily just click this pencil and edit the existing note, or I could come up and create a new note just by clicking the plus and adding note, or the last option I have is to come up to this blue plus button here and click note. I then have an entire editor where I can type in whatever text I want. I also have lots of different text customization, whether it's the size of the text, whether it's bold, underline, italicized, the color. You can add in bullet points, indentations, and links. All of this can be really useful. The one thing that I really like is a link. If you refer to some other outside source of information, you can easily link to it within the notes of a dashboard, which will be really useful if somebody needs to kind of follow that thread later on. So I'm just going to put in some easy text here and then click add. Google's going to place it into the first available spot within the dashboard. It showed up right in that spot there. Let's say I want to get rid of it. All I need to do is come up here to these three dots and click delete. It'll make sure that I really want to do that, and I do. The next component type I'm going to talk through are these custom scorecards. And Google already has one built, but I want to start off by building a brand new one from scratch to show you what it would look like to do that, and then we'll go edit the scorecard that they've already built. So I'm just going to click the plus and choose scorecard down at the bottom. From this point, you have a lot of different options. You can name the scorecard and give it a description to help anybody who's reading the report understand what it is, but both of those pieces are optional. You then get to choose the measures that you would like to add, and then enter any filters that you want to layer over those different metrics. So in the existing scorecard, we have cost, interactions, and some interaction metrics, but there's nothing about conversions. So I'm going to create an easy one that just shows the conversion and cost per conversion metrics for this account. So I'm going to give it a pretty easy name. Then to get the stats, I need to add a specific measure. And once you click into this field, this drop-down will open up, which should look very familiar if you've used the Google Ads reporting tool. From here, you can decide whatever metrics you want to use either by opening each of the pieces and choosing the metric this way, or you can simply just start typing to find the metric that you're looking for. Just by typing in conversions, it brought up a number of different options. So I'm going to click conversions, which is the first one I want. And then I also want cost per conversion. So I'm going to do the same thing. And that one is going to be this one down here. And if I wanted to, I can continue adding more measures, but I'm going to stick with these two for now. And if I needed to, I could also add a filter to only look for a certain number of campaigns, to focus on only certain ad names, to look at only search campaigns, display campaigns. There are lots of different filters that we have the options for in here. So if you want to be able to filter a specific scorecard for only a certain subset of your account, there's lots of options you have for that. Next, we can customize the view a little bit better. We can first add conditional formatting, if that makes sense. So we can add a new condition here, and you get to choose which metric you want it to be on. So we'll just say conversions. Now I get to decide if the value is greater than or equal to, less than, does not equal, whichever operator makes the most sense. And then you can apply a value over here. So let's say if conversions are greater than 0, I find this to be a good thing, so I want it to be green. But you can adjust the color if you want it to be, but we've only got the 5 main Google colors to choose from. So I'll go ahead and leave this here so we can see what it looks like here in just a minute. And then the other options we have for customizing the view are to add the spark lines, which if you look at this custom scorecard, basically just means that it's going to show this little blue line down here. If you don't want those, you would just leave this unchecked, but just to keep it comparable, I'm going to add those in. And then you can also decide if you want to use a percentage change or absolute change compared to a different date range. So for now, let's just go ahead and say I want to show the percentage change. Now I can scroll down a little bit, and you can see the note that to enable that change, you have to add a comparison date range to the dashboard via the date picker. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that off just for simplicity's sake. But you can see how you can add in some trending data to show a comparison to a previous date range. So for now, this is enough. I'm just going to click add. And now you can see that my scorecard for conversion performance has shown up. My spark lines are there. We have over 0 conversions, so the text is going to be green. And then you can also see the cost per conversion average within the account as well. If you ever want to edit any of the existing scorecards that you have, you just need to click over the component and click the pencil. And then you can see all of the different components and how they're added up. So this is the one that Google built. It has the cost, interactions, interaction rate, impressions, and it has no conditional formatting, but it does have spark lines, and it shows the percent and absolute change. So just for that, I'm gonna go ahead and click save. And now let's come over here and show what the comparison date range looks like. I just added the previous period as the comparison point. And now you can see that the spark lines in both scorecards show both the before and after, but the Google scorecard, each of these metrics shows the absolute change as well as the percent change up or down of the current stats compared to the previous set. If a regular trending report is what you want out of this, you'll need to make sure that when we end up saving the dashboard that we have the comparison date range look back in here. Otherwise it's going to default simply to the last 30 days, and that won't show the absolute or percentage change in the metrics that you're trying to look at. Just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to take that compare off just for right now. Now the last component we can make in a dashboard in Google Ads is going to be a report. And as a quick overview, the line chart that we have for daily cost by device, the interaction rate bar chart, the interactions by device pie chart, and the campaign performance by device components of this dashboard are all reports. Now that might seem confusing because they all look very different visually, right? But that's where the Google Ads reporting tool comes in handy. So I'm going to come over here and click and just create a new report. In this account, there's already a saved report, campaign spend by day versus the budget. So I could click this option if I wanted to, or I could create a brand new report from scratch. And that's what I'm going to do. To keep in the theme of breaking things down by device, I'm going to go ahead and create a conversions by device report. Once I've got a name, just click create report. And now we have been moved all the way over into the Google Ads reporting tool within the interface. As you can tell, this is a completely different view from where we were previously. And rather than spending the time to go through all of the different options that you have available in here, I'm going to refer you to a video that we've already put together that you can see at the top of the screen right now that goes over almost all of the different components within the Google Ads reporting tool. For now, I'm just going to quickly make the report that I want to make to add to the dashboard, and that's going to be a bar chart with conversions broken down by device. Pretty simple, right? Got a device category as the y-axis and the conversion total as the x-axis. Once you've created whatever report you want in this tool to add it to your dashboard, you probably guessed it, you just head up over here to the Add to Dashboard button and click that. Google found the squares where I was within the dashboard and added it in there, so now it looks right in line with the other metrics that we already had available. Once you've finished making all of the edits you want to your dashboard, all you need to do is come over here and click Save. And now all the edits that we've made have been saved, and this is the new look of the dashboard. One thing to note is that as I was making all of those adjustments to that dashboard, none of those changes were saved because you'll notice it never kicked me back out, but there was no autosave option either. So if you're going to do a lot of work, leave, and then come back and do more work, I encourage you to save all of the changes that you have, even incremental changes, so that you don't lose them in case you accidentally close the tab or your computer suddenly restarts, all those crazy things that can happen when you're in the midst of a big project. Now that we have our dashboard saved, you're probably wondering how anybody can access this. There are a couple of different ways that people can get access to this dashboard. And the first is going to be just simply going into the Google Ads interface, clicking on reports, and heading to dashboards. You can see here that the starter dashboard that I created is still available. If you want to make any changes to the dashboard, bad news, this is not the page you're going to do it from. Because if you check the box here, the only option you have is to remove the dashboard. So if you want to remove it, this is how you do it. But if you don't want to remove it, and you just want to make edits or share the dashboard with somebody else, you'll need to click on the link, which takes us back to the page I was just on. From here, you have a couple different options. The first is going to be to simply download the dashboard. So if I do that, it'll open up a PDF that looks just like this. There's one page, as you can tell from the grid off to the left, and I'm not going to scroll anyway one way or another because we'll have to blur out the account number or those campaign names again. But this is an easy way to download the dashboard and send it or share it with whoever needs to see it. But rather than doing that manually, the easier option is to utilize this schedule feature. The first thing you need to do is choose who you want to receive the dashboard on a regular basis. So I'll come in here and just click into this field. And I'm sorry we have them all blurred out, but everybody who has access to this account is effectively going to be a checkbox next to their name, and you can opt in anybody into the report and dashboard email that needs to be. Or you can easily just select the box next to all account users with access to view reports, and it'll send it to everybody on the list that you see there. You then have the option to add a note, which is effectively just going to be the body of an email that will be sent to them. Again, if you need to explain what this information is or how to read it or any other type of follow-up information, this is the place to do it. And then lastly, you get to decide what the cadence of this dashboard export will be. You can choose between daily, weekly, monthly, every day but only on weekdays, and the first day of every month. So if you build out a dashboard that is effectively your monthly report, this is a great option to send it out first day of every month. Shows you the data for whatever date range you chose. Likely needs to be something that shows last month as the default, but then your report will automatically be sent out without you having to do anything. This could even work if you need to add specific customization to the report. You could have this dashboard emailed to you, and then you can write an email that accompanies the PDF that you send to a client. So there's a number of different ways that you can utilize these dashboards. Once you decide what your cadence is, you get to choose which hour of the day you want it to happen. Do you want it to be in their inbox when they get to the office in the morning? Or do you want it to be something that reaches them over lunch? Or maybe even just before the end of the day, just to clutter up their inbox before they try to go home? Whatever your choice is, you can decide whatever hour you want that to be. And then I can't do it because I haven't added anybody here, but when you're finished, all you need to do is click save. I'm sure you were able to figure it out after watching the demo section where we talked about how to customize the report dashboard itself. But just a quick overview, I want to show you what it looks like when you create one from scratch. So on the Dashboards tab, you just come up to the blue plus to create a new dashboard. And then as you can see here, there are all blank squares for you to get started with. There's nothing in here to customize and nothing to limit you. Even though you only see 3 rows of squares, as soon as you put in your first component and drag it further down the screen, they will add more rows of the gray squares, so your report gets longer and longer and you make more space. This is not the case if you try to go to the right. You can only add more space if you go further down the page. Overall, Google Dashboards are a great way to put together lots of information from your Google Ads account into one high-level visual view. Individual reports only really have space for one specific type of outcome. You can either have one table, one bar chart. There's only really one view you can have at a time. But dashboards allow you to combine a lot of those and put them together, as well as add individual notes so that you can help convey the important information to your client or your boss, whoever is looking at the reports themselves. There are some capabilities around making sure that you can share it with certain people and have it be emailed to them automatically, which is super useful, but we do have some limitations in a couple of different ways. First, there's not really a live way to share the dashboard with somebody who doesn't have access to the Google Ads account. The only thing they'll have access to is that emailed PDF version of the dashboard, and that doesn't really give lots of room for customization. They can't adjust the date range to see what they want. They can't filter the data. And as I showed you on some of the different changes when I resized components, if for some reason the list of campaigns at the bottom of that default dashboard was longer than the spacing allotted to it, that means that they can't scroll within that table to see those additional campaign names that have a little less volume in performance because they just don't have room for it on the page. The last drawback is that this is the Google Ads Performance Dashboard. Notice there's nothing to do with Facebook ads, LinkedIn, Microsoft, any of the other ad networks. So if you want to have any of those other networks included, if you want somebody who doesn't have access to the account to be able to view it and customize the view, but you still want to be able to have all of the control of making lots of visually appealing reports and have them in a highly customized manner, you probably want to revert back to a Google Data Studio report, which I referred to in the intro of this video. But again, depending on the types of reports you need to provide and how many channels you're using, a Google Ads dashboard can be a great way to get all of the performance information out of the system and into the hands of somebody who needs to make decisions off of that information. I know there was a lot in this video, like a lot of our other videos, but if you have any lasting questions that I didn't answer or any curiosities about how these dashboards work, feel free to leave us a note in the comments below. Thanks for watching our video. If you thought it was useful, give us a thumbs up below.
We release a new video at least once a week, so if you want to get notified of when a new one comes out, be sure to subscribe to the Paid Media Pros channel.